Good morning, everyone. This licensing hearing is now open. There are no fire drills planned. If the fire alarm is activated, which is a continuous siren with a flashing red light, please leave the building immediately following the fire exit signs. There are no apologies for absence. The first item on the agenda is the appointment of the chairman. Are there any nominations? Councillor Haslam?
I nominate Councillor Clegg.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
That's seconded.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest? Okay. Right, hello everyone. So we're here for the variation of the King's Arms. We try to keep this pretty informal, so but obviously we do have to stick to a procedure. So what we're going to do is, I think we'll do introductions first. So if we can all go round, starting from, I'll start from me and we'll go that way. If we can all introduce ourselves. So I'm Graham Clack, I'm councillor and, as it appears to be, the chairman today.
I'm Chris Haslam, member for Kemsing. When you speak, by the way, press the green button in front of you and the light should come on.
Good morning, my name is David Legstins. I'm one of the principal solicitors at the council. I'm here to help advise the committee.
Good morning, my name is Phil McGee. I'm the clerk for this meeting.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Malpass. I'm a resident of Yew Tree Mews.
Morning, I'm Francis Wright. I'm also a resident of Yew Tree Mews.
Good morning, my name's Neil Lever. I am a resident of Yew Tree Mews and I'm chairman of Yew Tree Mews Limited.
I'm Gordon Rogers, again a resident of Yew Tree Mews, and actually the secretary of Yew Tree Mews Limited, as it happens. Thank you.
Good morning, my name's Ewan McGregor, TLT Solicitors. I'm representing the applicant.
Good morning, I'm Victoria Witheridge. I'm the General Manager of the King's Arms in Westerham and the DPS.
Good morning, I'm Michael Haynes and I'm the Area Manager within Venture Hotels.
I'm Susan Lindsay. I'm the Senior Licensing Officer at Sevenoaks District Council.
I'm Councillor Roddy Hogarth, represent Seal and Weald, and I'm the last one.
Okay, so what we're going to do, so the order is that the officer, Sue, will present the report, then the applicant will go first, so the representative and the representatives from the pub. The committee can then ask them questions. We're very happy for yourselves to ask them questions as well. If I could just emphasise that they are questions of the information they've given, so you get to put your case later on, but at that stage it's just questions of the applicant. Then we've got no representations from any of the bodies, and then obviously then you can speak. You then speak as well. To say what you want to say about the application. So if we go over to Sue first, just to present the application.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of today's hearing is for the Licensing Subcommittee to determine an application for a variation to a premises licence in relation to the King's Arms in Westerham. 6 representations in relation to this application have been received, and these representations are on pages 37 to 45 of my report. The application is to vary the licensing plan to include a basement bar area and to allow the sale of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises Sunday to Thursday from 10 AM to 11 PM and on Friday and Saturday from 10 AM to 1 AM the following morning. Also to allow live and recorded music indoors Sunday to Thursday from 6 PM to 11 PM and on Friday and Saturday from 6 PM to 12 midnight. Also to allow the provision of late night refreshment, that is hot food and drink, Friday and Saturday from 11 PM to 1 AM the following morning. Steps the applicant intends to take to promote the 4 licensing objectives already form part of their existing premises licence, which can be found on pages 27 to 32 of my report. In determining this application, the subcommittee must give appropriate weight to the steps that are appropriate to promote the licensing objectives, the representations presented by all parties, the Home Office guidance, Sevenoaks District Council statement of licensing policy, and any other relevant legislation. Options available to the subcommittee today are to grant the variation in the same terms as it has been applied for, to grant the variation but modify or add conditions, to grant the variation but modify the hours of licensable activity, or to reject the application. There is a right of appeal under Section 181 and Schedule 5 of the Licensing Act to the Magistrates Court, and this right of appeal is open to both the applicant and to any person who has made relevant representation in relation to this application. Any appeal must be made within 21 days of the written notification of the subcommittee decision. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. McGregor, over to you.
Good morning. I've had an opportunity of speaking to some, but not all of the representatives, which is helpful. We've introduced ourselves, and I'm conscious that you said, it's not adversarial; it's a discussion about, and so that discussion has been very helpful. And Mr. Rogers even said, "I quite like lawyers," and so there is no accounting for taste. When he found out I was the lawyer involved in this, I'm not hopefully going to be too long. It's not to say that I take anything for granted, but I know that you'll have read the papers. We've sent in some supplementary submissions which set out our position, our case. I'm not going to read them, but I'm going to take you through those. And if there are any questions that you've got for me, then please, I'm sure that you'll ask questions of me. To my right, Victoria's introduced herself. She has been in the trade for 35 years. She has been at this hotel for 20 months. And she has managed hotels for 12 years, for 35 years of her licensing experience. And to her right is Michael Haynes, who's the Business Development Manager for Venture Hotels, which is the hotel division of Green King, who are my clients. And the proposed, as I've said in my submissions, the proposed 1.4 million investment in this premise is unlocked by this application. At a time when a significant number of licensing premises are closing, and we were talking about this yesterday, and Beefeater is a name that resonated with me from my childhood, and prawn cocktails and steaks and all the rest of it. They closed 100 premises in the very recent days. An investment in hospitality businesses, any hospitality business, is to be encouraged and to be welcomed. And you will have seen from I know you visited the site yesterday, I hope that was helpful for you. I know Victoria met you there. I think, if I'm being kind, the premises are a little tired. You'll have been into the basement. The hotel as a whole, and I don't mean to be unkind, but I've been into the bedrooms. Investment is needed in this building, and this is what this application brings. And the application falls in 3 parts. There's the change of layout. There are the hours that your officer has set out, and then there's also the application to change the hours for guests. And the concerns of the residents, and we're respectful of those concerns, but we do not accept that their concerns will be realised by granting of this application. It does not affect the use of the external area. There's no proposed change to the use of the external area, and the current licence is at page 27 of your report. You'll have seen the basement on your visit. There is a bar down there, and there are some chairs in one of the vaults that go down the side of the vault. It's clearly been used, whether rightly or wrongly, in the past at some point. But we are now here to regularise that position. It's not on the licence plan, so it's only right that in advance of any investment that position is regularised. Its main use will be for functions. It may also be used for residence bar later in the evening, but there are no windows, there are no doors, and there's no opportunity for any noise escape from that part of the premise. It is a self-contained bar down in the basement. And so I don't propose to take you any further on that. You'll have seen the plans and you've seen the premises. Insofar as the change of hours are concerned, the premises currently are permitted to open at 11 o'clock in the morning. We've asked for that to be moved back to 10 o'clock in the morning. We've also asked for the sale of alcohol to be moved back from 11 until 10 o'clock in the morning. That's not to say that we will be open all days, every day is on at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's to provide us with a little bit more flexibility. There may be people that are going to events. They might want a champagne breakfast. There might be a brunch that's taking place beforehand. But it's not something that will be used all day, every day throughout the course of the year. Likewise, the application in relation to the extension of hours from midnight until 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday and Saturday, again, is to provide some flexibility for the premise and also to generate some revenue to provide. You'll appreciate that when any investment is made into any business, and hospitality is no different, is that there needs to be a return on the investment that has been made into the business. That minor or sort of modest change to the hours is something that will help to generate income, as well as a greater occupancy in the hotel rooms once that they are refurbished and better facilities within the hotel, and improved and changed menu. So the whole sort of, I suppose, atmosphere of the hotel will change and will be improved to the benefit not only just for the residents. I'm not sure if your cameras have stopped working, but I'm looking at the black screen there. There we go. Not only for the residents, but also for the local community. And as I've said, it's largely about flexibility, being able for us to operate in line also with other premises that have got licenses granted for similar hours. I think one of the major concerns of the residents that has been raised is that if you grant this application, then it will result in migration of customers from either the George and Dragon or from Frankie's, which is next door. Our position is that that simply will not happen because they already have hours. The George and Dragon has longer licensing hours than we do. The King's Arms does during the course of the week till 12:30, and it has 12:30 Friday, Saturday as well. And Frankie's, which is right next door to us, is licensed until 1 in the morning. So there is the ability already, if people so wish, for that migration to happen. And so far as I'm aware, it doesn't. And all the existing policies and procedures in relation to the outside area will remain in force. Customers will be encouraged to use the front exit of the hotel to leave the premises, and the smoking area post 11 o'clock at night when the garden is closed will be at the front of the hotel rather than down the area where the residents live. All, as I say, policies and procedures that are in place currently will be adopted and employed at the premises. And the final part of the application is that insofar as a 24-hour application for residents is concerned, that is common for a lot of residential properties. Now, you may not know that a hotel has got a license for 24 hours a day, and you may not even use it, but it is there for residents and their guests. And Victoria has worked in, as I say, hotels for a period of 12 years. If I'm a resident and the bar has closed to the public, I want to buy a drink, I have to show my key card in the same way that you would do in any hotel up and down the country. And you may have done that in the past at hotels that you have stayed at. And it is a simple process and one that will be adopted here. And the backdrop to the application is that there have been no complaints about the operation of the hotel since Victoria took over the operation, or the manager. She became the manager of the hotel. And one of the representatives was kind enough to say to me, and I hope he doesn't mind me repeating these words back to him, but he said that the introduction of Victoria has been phenomenal, not just good, phenomenal. And what that shows to you is actually the management of the premise is key. It's not, all licensed premises don't generate the same issues. They may have the same hours, but the management of the premises is key. And the fact that the residents were kind enough, and they've been very generous in what they've said in their representations, where they say that they enjoy a good relationship with the hotel, and that is down to Victoria and her staff. There have been no complaints since she took over, as I say, managership of this hotel. And she made a conscious decision to move down to Westerham from Norfolk, where she was managing a hotel up there, encouraged by the potential investment into the hotel, which will create an additional 10 to 15 jobs on top of the 24 jobs that it already provides within the local area. In advance of lodging the application, she spoke to the police. And if you look at paragraph 7 of your report, which appears at page 2, and she also engaged with the environmental health officer, who asked her to provide a noise management plan, and that was provided to the environmental health officer. And sometimes the key officers in this application are the police and the environmental health officer. Not only did they, in some occasions, sorry, you'll see that a number of the RAs had no comment made, but both the police and environmental health officer actively engaged in this process and said that they had no objections to this application, and that confirmed the discussions that Victoria had with both of the officers prior to the submission of the application. And your legal advisor will be familiar with paragraph 9.12 of the legal guidance, and that appears at paragraph 5 of my submissions. And just very briefly, just for the benefit of the residents, is that what that says is that each responsible authority will be an expert in their respective field. And in some cases, it is likely that a particular responsible authority will be the licensing authority's main source of advice in relation to a particular licensing objective. And so when you look at the crime and disorder licensing objective, the police are your go-to responsible authority. And when you look at public nuisance, your environmental health officer is your go-to responsible authority. And where there is a divergence of views about how this application will impact on the local community and whether or not this application will promote the licensing objectives, then the people that you should be turning to and seeing where they stand in relation to the application are the responsible authorities. And we say that it is of great significance that there are no representations from the responsible authorities. And I'm just going to finish on this. We are respectful of the local residents. We have a very good relationship with the local residents, I think it's fair to say. I think Mr. Lever, who is the chair of the Residents Association, the Local Residents Association, has Victoria's telephone number. Sometimes managers are reluctant to give out the number. So he has her number, and so there is a link there. And it's not as if we are hiding in the shadows. But the reality is that our closest residents to the bar are the people who are staying in the hotel. And whilst we certainly don't want to upset those that live beyond the curtilage of the hotel, it's key that we do nothing within the body of the hotel that upsets those that are staying in the premises. And that doesn't happen currently, and it won't happen in the granting of this application. So these are good premises. There is no evidence within any of your papers of a catalogue of complaints being made to the authority, to your licensing officer, either by the police, by the environmental health officer, or any of the responsible authorities. And you will have seen that as a committee in some reports that you get, is that that is the case. So that is all I'm going to say. I appreciate I have an opportunity at the end to sort of bring things together and sum up. I hope I haven't taken more of your time than had been anticipated. But as I say, if you have any questions, we are here to answer them. If I can't answer them, then Victoria or Michael will. But that is the application. I would invite you to grant the application.
Right, thank you very much. I've got a couple of questions, but I will refer to my colleagues first. Oh, okay. Yeah, just thank you for letting us have a look around, because that was really good, so we could see, to visualise. And you know, clearly the residential area is behind there. And you know, the mention that the outside area won't be used after 11 o'clock. How will you, because there's the fire exit stairs which go up and lead to that way. How will you manage to make sure that people won't be using that area after 11?
So we've already discussed about, so when you came yesterday, the door had been propped open for the summer, but we'll put a bar across the door and, we'll just have to staff the area. But if we're open late and there's a function downstairs or whatever, that it will have to be staffed. It'll have to be, physically someone there. We always have, I won't run a bar with one person on duty. Do you know what I mean? It's not the right thing to do. So yeah, we'll just have to physically manage it, to be honest.
And also, I suppose, on a practical level, is that there are, you may have seen those when you visited yesterday, but there are signs around the premises asking customers to respect the amenity of the local community. And a simple notice on the door at the back, which was propped open, and where a push bar, that's a fire exit, and so a push bar, it can be closed with a push bar on it. And so there can be signs put on the door saying no exit, save in the case of an emergency. The other door, which is, if you're in the garden, there's the bar door is there, and then there's another door on the left-hand side, which takes you down a lobby into a corridor down to lobby. That's the door that residents gain access to currently after at night. So if a resident returns to the hotel function, then they'd have to come around through the gap where the cars come down, or would have been in the old days, the horse and carriage would have come down, and they have to access the hotel through the rear of the. That's the only time that people would be using that part of the premises. But in terms of, consumption of alcohol is not a licensable activity. It will be cleared of customers by no later than 11. And the smoking area will be to avoid residents being impacted.
But also, it will stop the residents going to the rear if the front door's open. So when they're coming back from weddings, which happens an awful lot throughout the summer months with the local, Westrum Golf Club and things, an awful lot of weddings there with guests staying. They come around the back and come out their taxis and things, but the front door will be open if the bar's open at the front and the rear is shut. So I'm hoping that would be less disturbance on the residents and less traffic footfall on the patio area.
And it probably just be interesting just to expand a bit more on, what the use of that basement area will be, whether it will just be private functions or whether you'll have maybe the pub puts on the DJ or whatever. It'd just be interesting, I think, for the residents to understand, how you intend to use that area.
Can I start the answer and then Victoria will finish that? Is that it will be used for private functions. It's got a capacity of about 60 on a fire risk assessment. I think it's got 2 exits, but I think you ignore one. So it might be used for private functions. Where it's not being used for private functions, it may be used for a residence bar once the main bar is closed to members. So it's got a sort of multitude of uses.
The intention at the moment isn't to have sort of a regular DJ and those sort of nights at all. It is for, we're a hotel and, functions, we'd like some function space and be able to sell functions and promote some income through that way. But is the predominant reason to have it licensed. I'm not saying occasionally we might put on, I know historically there used to be jazz bands in the evening and that sort of thing. We're not the wine bar next door. We don't want sort of DJs and that sort of thing in. We'd like to be a little bit more upmarket, to be honest. Yeah.
And I think there is reference because obviously there's been mention about the other premises which have got later licenses, which maybe the residents will be able to help on this, that don't always stay open for the length of their hours. So you were saying that it isn't necessarily the intention to stay open until 1 o'clock every Friday and Saturday.
It's common practice as you'll have seen, and you've just alluded to the fact that Frankie's may not be open every Friday and Saturday until 1 o'clock. I think they advertise that they're open till 12, although they've got a license till 1. The George and Dragon has a license till 12:30 in the morning. It may not use that, but it enables that flexibility so that if you do need it, A, you know you can book in a function, and B, you don't have to apply for a temporary event notice. And the benefit of having it on the license is that any conditions that are on the license attached to that, whereas with a temporary event notice, there are no conditions attached to temporary event notices at all.
And then, sorry, just one other point. I'm rather hogging this. Obviously, at the moment on the license, you've got the additional hour for the various holidays and stuff, which obviously, like Good Friday, Easter Monday wouldn't apply on a Friday and Saturday. But what is the intention on days such as St George's Day and St Patrick's Day, which can fall on a Friday and a Saturday? And Chris, will you be looking still for the extra hour there?
No, it's past my bedtime. No, I don't think there's no intention for that at all. No, absolutely not.
If you want to clarify that on the license, then we're perfectly happy to do that. And I'm not being secret, but it's a good question.
Yeah, it would simply be for the ones that could fall on a Friday and a Saturday. Yeah. That's me for the moment. So, Chris?
I have nothing to say at the moment. I have one question, which I'll wait until later once I've heard the residents, because it's not absolutely relevant to the application as such. It's just an observation about longevity. Or should I say now? I've started.
I think you should say now.
Sorry, I should have just got to the point. In listening to, it's commendable that Victoria has got a good relationship. Obviously, if something happens to Victoria and she's replaced, one of the challenge then is to continue the good work that you're doing. And how does that happen? Because I don't see how, as a licensing committee, we have no control over that, or and arguably, it's not down completely to yourself either. So I don't know how to respond to that, and hence me not being sure about the question.
It's a question that gets asked up and down the country about, well, we like you, but we're not so sure about what comes after you. And if you follow that argument through, you wouldn't grant any license at all. Or there is a danger that you might not grant any license at all, because they say, well, you're lovely and you clearly know what you're doing. But what happens if you sell it to whoever? Into thinking of names, but you get the point. So you have to look at it in the here and now. Greene King are an experienced operator. When businesses make investment, they want to protect that investment to make sure that it is sound and that there is a return on that investment. And that would be a part of the decision-making process that Greene King would make. But I think, and I'm sort of speaking on behalf of Victoria, but we spent a lot of time yesterday and in the car on the way over here this morning, is that she's made a commitment to the hotel and to see it through this investment and to see it get up and running. I think, I don't know whether this is the last throw of the dice for her in terms of her career, but she's so,
I did say that yesterday. I did say it was an opportunity because it is making me even older
I saw
than
your
I am.
face, Councillor Haslam, and I thought, have I really overstepped the mark here? But I've got that right. So I do apologise. I don't mean to be jocular, but it's she's made a commitment to this, and I've made the broader point. The reality is that if your concerns, fears are realised 4, 5, 6 years down the line, there is a mechanism in the same way that the fears that the residents may have. There is a mechanism to bring this licence back to court, back to committee through the review process. And you say, well, Mr. McGregor, it may not be me, it may, this may be the last thing that dies for my career as well, but it may be that someone else says, well, Mr. McGregor told us all these things would happen. They did happen. You've got to change the manager. We need to clip your wings, but that's not for now.
No, I understand that. And in many ways, my question was a rhetorical question, and also for the benefit of the residents, in that we have to review the application in front of us as it is today, not as anything else. It is as what it is here today. We can't look at anything which isn't in the paperwork. So thank you.
Sorry, can I just add on to that? Green Kings slightly changed its chance is with the hotels, and we used to hire pub managers in a lot of these in-venture hotels. However, people like Victoria have that higher calibre. She's a lot more respectful to the environment and the pub. And now what we're finding is Green King's new accommodation strategy is hiring hoteliers, not pub managers. So I was hoping if Victoria does ever leave, I would hopefully be around. I've been here for 15 years. That we hire the hotelier that looks after the hotel, not just a pub downstairs where you can have a disco every night. So hopefully that offers some sort of comfort there as well, that we are changing our strategy and approach within Green King.
Thank you, Jim. Very quick question. There's been reference to investing in the property, upgrading it, and I presume, therefore, also with the expanded service, an increase to staffing requirements. Could you put some figures on either of those?
Yeah, so the hotel currently employs, I've got 24 members of staff. And what this does, it creates another 10 to 15 jobs. And part of that will be in the kitchen with an enhanced and improved kitchen offer, and some more kitchen staff, kitchen porters. With the longer hours and with the bar downstairs, you need additional bar staff, additional waiters, waitresses, and also at the present time, there is no night manager at the hotel. But if the application is granted, then there would be a night manager as well. So there is a variety of jobs that are created for different range of skills across every facet of the hotel. That's my characterisation.
And the capital investment likely?
It's 1.4, I think. Is that right?
I just want to go back to the outside area again. So currently the pub is open till midnight. I don't know if you're open midnight every Friday and Saturday or not necessarily, but on the days that you are, how is the management of the external area? How is it managed?
It's very rare that we're actually open until midnight. We shut at 11 o'clock most evenings, with half an hour drinking up. There isn't, when I went there was an awful, if I can explain what used to happen, because the team used to finish and they used to encourage people to go outside, to give them plastic glass to go outside and drink and finish off. Now I ask the team, they have to clear the area. The duty manager isn't allowed to leave until the area is cleared. And they're always left by half an hour after closing. We do try and monitor noise out there. It is difficult sometimes, but we ask people to be quiet. We have asked people to come inside. We are conscious of the residents there, and I try and encourage the team to be aware of it as well. There's nothing formal in place, I have to be honest, but we do try and monitor it out there. We do have guests, obviously, that complain in hotel rooms occasionally about noise. It's like you went there yesterday. I mean, I think the M25 was shut last night. The noise was horrendous because I live right on that road as well. And there's a lot of elements that add to noise. We get, traffic and bin men and that sort of thing. So it's something we are quite aware of.
Yeah, I'm just sort of keen that, were this application to be granted, that there's a well thought through plan and method of operation of the external area. to make sure that there isn't any disturbance.
We'd have to have we'd have to have strict plan in place and retraining of all the duty managers that it has to be cleared at 11 o'clock. I don't have any qualm to doing that at all. We will ensure it's cleared. And people either need to come inside and finish their drinks or they need to move on. There is an element that sits out there sort of, and it's something I've sort of raised, and it is a bit of a concern. Sort of residents may go down for a cigarette and that sort of thing. But we will just have to direct them to where they need to go and, you know, have clear written policy and retraining of team in place to ensure it's followed through.
But you're perfectly at liberty to put a condition on the licence about the use of the external area. It's limited tonight. I think your officer said at the start you have various options available to you. And the starting point is the applicant. The Licensing Act is a permissive piece of legislation. And if you don't feel that you can grant the application that's presented to you in the way that it is, your next step down the line is say, well, are there any conditions that we can add to the licence that enable this application to be granted that promote the licensing objective? And so that's where the offer of condition about the use of the external area comes in. And once you've gone through all of those steps, then you think, well, actually, we have to do this application. There's a long way that you have. There are a number of steps you have to go through before you get to that bottom rung of the ladder.
I think that's probably all our questions. I don't know how. So again, this is questions of the applicants rather than sort of comments. So I don't know where you want to start, whether we start with you, Mr. Rogers, or.
Okay, so we're relating this just to questions on what's already.
Yes, because you get because you get a chance to speak subsequently. So so that we don't sort of go through it twice. Yeah, it's just purely questions.
No, again, I think perhaps one of the questions was the investment in the hotel, which is welcome, obviously, by everybody. Our understanding was that this has been planned all year this year, that the work was going to start as early as March, I think, and then got postponed back and postponed back again. So I'm not quite sure how this application ties into something that was already planned anyway. Why this is dependent? This application is dependent on them spending money when the decision to spend money was already made.
So we had provisional dates, you are right, originally, and we weren't licensing, but because we knew we were going to have to push the date back for various reasons. So Green Team's worked on the accommodation strategy, and this is why it's being pushed back, because I'm sure you've seen the news, pubs are being sold and a lot of places are expanding on their accommodation. We recently had a restructure in Green Team, and unfortunately the whole plan got put on hold and it has got pushed back slightly. So we were always going to go down the route of changing the license, but we were never been part of that plan. But now we know that we still want to go ahead with the refurb. We've got an accommodation strategy. We're now looking to get a license ready for when we go live.
And do you have a start date for the works?
No, not at the moment, no. We're waiting for the board just to confirm. It's also dependent on this license as well, whether we get it or no, because then we might have to go back and redraw the plans because we won't be able to we won't be able to get our investment back in what we're putting in the PJ, in the P&L.
And my second question on this, I think it's a question, is it's more an observation to endorse. I forget which councillor mentioned it, the fact that we do appreciate what Victoria's done since she got there. But in the time I've lived there, which is 20 years, I think she's the 15th manager on a rough count back that the hotel has had. So we are concerned about that longevity of her role. And in the past, it has not been managed very successfully. It has got better, but it's in the past and I come on to that in the submission, if I may, our comments. But the question is really, yes, I'm just endorsing what somebody else asked. How can we be sure what happens in the future? And that was answered, I accept.
Did you want to cover that when you finalise, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be fair, I think it's sort of accepted that I did provide an answer to that question when Councillor Haslam asked the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, just one question in relation to your comments, Councillor Clack, and Victoria's comments. And I'll endorse what Gordon said about Victoria. We're very, very pleased to have someone that's taking a firm interest in the future of the hotel, and with Michael's commitment as well. Is that the definition of the external area? We've talked about the external area, and I think by listening to the conversation, it's mainly concerned with the terrace and the garden, but the external area extends to the bottom of the car park, where, as a resident of 20 years, I've seen an awful lot of antisocial behaviour, drug taking, etc., dump cars. And whilst this hasn't gone through the Green King process, it's often gone through the local managerial process and the local PSO process to get things sorted. So my question is, and endorsed by Ewan, I believe, was that if we do can we have a fully managed dispersal policy that we can set a benchmark on, so that within reason, we expect when people come out and get back, some people do get back to their cars and they're often chatting and they'll be loud because they've had a bit of drink and what have you. And it happens a lot, and I happen to be right at the very bottom of it. Can we have a reasonable dispersal policy written in to the license so that we have a benchmark to be able to go to Victoria and say, look, 3 o'clock this morning, they're all still parked down there and there's all sorts of chaos going on. And it does happen in real time. And not just the bottom of the car park. You need to be aware that there are 4 spaces in the adjacent car park that get used as a bit of a bolt hole. So if I could ask Victoria and the team to have a robust dispersal policy that we can cooperate with as residents and hotelier, then that would be my request.
So short answer to the question is yes. There is already a dispersal policy in place. And if you wish to put that on as a condition on the license, that the premises has a dispersal policy, and that is reviewed at least annually, then we're more than happy to do that. Something I should have said earlier, and you'll hopefully forgive me for jumping in on this, is that whilst Victoria's phone number is shared with residents, if they want the hotel management to attend meetings of the Residents Association, I don't know how often they meet, then happy to make a commitment to do that. I think sometimes you don't need to wait for the meeting to happen. Got the number, and the relationship is clearly a good one. The extent of the licensed premises is shown on pages, and this is where my eyes are failing, page 33 and 34. There's a plan. I'm not going to ask you to pick that up now, but you'll see the plan within your bundle. And if there are people down at the bottom of the car park at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting up to whatever it is they get up to, I'm struggling to see how that would be residents of the hotel or people who've been in the pub, because the pub closes way before that. And the last point on that, I'm not saying that these issues don't prevail, but I'm not sure that it's fair to put them at the door of the premises. The last point on that is at paragraph 5 of the submissions, where it says statement of licensing policy should also make clear that licensing law is not the primary mechanism for the control of nuisance and antisocial behaviour by individuals once they're away from the licensed premises. They are responsible for their own behaviour once people leave licensed premises. That's just the way it is. It's not to say that we just push people away and say that's it. It's a well-run premises, and generally you run premises well, people leave in a better state than they do if they're poorly run, and that's what we've achieved here.
Can I ask just a clarification on the use you mentioned earlier on of the use of the bar? I haven't actually seen it, the room downstairs and the bar upstairs. When you're using your extended license and you've got an event downstairs, will the bar upstairs still be operational, or is that closed? Because I don't know how you would stop that migration of people drinking upstairs, downstairs?
So I think the answer that Victoria gave is that if there is a function on downstairs, the upstairs bar would be open. There's no function on downstairs, and that is not used. It may be used as a residence bar, but I suppose the short answer to your question is that there may be occasions when both are being used at the same time.
During the extended hours? That's the key thing, I think. 'Cause
Yes.
what's in my mind is, I think where you've got a bar below ground and no
Yeah.
no windows, no doors, you can
Yeah.
kind of control everything.
Yeah.
If that bar upstairs is also open, I can understand why you'd want to do that.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's the pub's open again, not it's not like an event, it's more like a pub. See what I mean? Because everyone's drinking upstairs. And
Yeah.
that's when, with the fire exits and being able to get out onto the back patio area, I think it'll be just harder to control. So I was just curious whether that was.
Yeah, it's if it's managed properly, it can be done, and there will be increased staffing to ensure that people don't go outside into the external areas post 11 o'clock at night, and supplemented by the signage, supplemented by the new fire door that can be installed with a push bar that doesn't impinge on the fire escape. But the events, you're right, have to be properly staffed and properly managed. And that's the commitment that my clients are making to you, making to the committee, and the creation of the extra jobs, which is part and parcel of this application.
I have no further questions.
Right, I think this is now over to you. So I don't know if one of you is going to speak for most of you, or how we
I think we'll probably go roughly in the same order. I think I'll start off, and then there may be a couple of things that my friends want to add to it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So thank you again. And talking to Mike, because I know really I should address only things that I raised in my initial submission to focus on here. As I mentioned, and I'm one of the residents of Yew Tree Mews, I am glad actually that you were able to come to the premises yesterday, I believe you said, because you will have seen, and I refer to the map on page 25 of the submissions, you'll realise how close the houses are to that outside terrace area. Our own living room is probably 20 metres, use modern language, 20 metres from the patio area. So noise is a very relevant and very important aspect of our enjoyment of our premises, of our own house. To the extent of if we have in the summer, like it is at the moment, with our windows open and so on, trying to watch television, if there's too much noise coming from the patio area, it's almost impossible to do that. You have a conflict of things. So the noise and the control of the noise and the control of the outside area is probably the paramount thing from my point of view. I do find it strange that they say there's no record of any, let's call it complaints, just to make it simple, to the hotel over the years. Certainly over the years, one could even argue my wife has been a prime responsible person for making complaints to the hotel on and off about behaviour and noise into the evenings, along with one or two other operational issues which don't impact this license application. But I think Victoria probably understands what those are. So we have been continually raising issues. The situation has got better, as we said at the beginning with Victoria, but there are still situations, even later on Sunday evening. I actually took a photograph at about 11:30 of 4 chaps sitting outside on the terrace still drinking at 11:30 on a Sunday night. It happens. And I think it's the issue is, and as I move on, it's the management of that terrace area is very hard. I actually have some sympathy for the problems that the hotel management have, because it's an open area. As you would have seen yesterday, there's multitudinous ways of accessing that patio area through the hotel, from the front of the hotel, coming up from the back of the hotel, and actually clearing it and controlling it. It's not a fenced off area. It's not somewhere that can be closed easily at 11:30 and somebody says, right, everybody been cleared off, we shut the gates, they can't get in. There's access all the time to that. So the management of that and having somebody, and I noticed the comment of a night manager, because one of the issues has been And quite honestly, we have phoned often late at night to make a complaint and the phone isn't answered. Maybe perhaps before Victoria's time, because there isn't really an on-site resident manager. The hotel doesn't lend itself to that. So knowing that there is somebody that we can contact to make a complaint to, and that a phone is answered and say they're still outside at 11:45, what's going on, is paramount to us. So, and picking up on Neil's point, that the premises extend into the car park. So there's no point just clearing the terrace. If everybody goes and sits in their cars and carry on, it's got to clear people out of the car park. And I don't quite know how you do that. And certainly it's a very hard thing to do if it's only junior members of staff working in the hotel at that time, to go and ask a bunch of half a dozen lads to move on. I wouldn't do it. And, I'm a fairly big fellow myself, but I'm old. But I wouldn't ask, you can't take on some of the people because, for the obvious reasons. The thing with the downstairs bar, I have less concern about. I think that's something which is not going to impact on us particularly. The other thing is what sort of music is then played indoors in the bar area, because if in the past some of the music has been unamplified music, it's been a singer with a guitar or something like that, perfectly manageable. Amplified music, even if it's played in the bar area, because it's an enclosed room, the bar downstairs, naturally people open the door, people open the windows to let air in, the noise comes straight out. It may as well be on the terrace. So the control of having music within the premises needs to ensure that the windows are shut, the doors are shut and kept shut when the music is being played. But that will cause its own problems because the hotel, I don't know if it's going to be air conditioned in the future, but it isn't air conditioned at the moment, for example. And so there's no sound barrier between the bar area and amplified music coming out through the windows. There just isn't any blockage to it. So our real issues would be, or real requests would be, if the license is considered, that there has got to be, back to what we've said before, a very, very robust method of making sure that the outside areas are cleared and closed and emptied. I don't quite know how they're going to do it, but that needs to be done. If it isn't being done, that we have an immediate access point to be able to say, to phone somebody in a position of authority within the hotel to say, they're outside, they're still making a noise, please get it sorted straight away. Get it sorted, get out there and do it. That's what we really need to have available to us. So is my submission as to what our concerns are primarily for the extension of the hours. And I think, if I just make sure I've thought of everything that I wanted to say, I think I am there. Yeah, I mean, it's almost, and I mentioned it in my submission, is this a variation or a significant variation to the license unless they can control what they want to do? And it all seems to hinge on, it's fine as long as it can be controlled, but we still don't really see the clear method of control.
Just on live music and that, so obviously up to 11 o'clock it's deregulated, but I don't know if you just want to.
So just for your information, about 10 years ago, the government deregulated live and recorded music. So on an unlicensed premises with alcohol for sale, if there are less than 500 people there, recorded and live music does not need a license between the hours of 8 in the morning and 11 o'clock at night. So if any conditions that are currently on a license or that are put on a license that relate to the closing of doors and windows when there's regulated entertainment taking place, they are automatically suspended. And the only way to bring live and recorded music back under the scope of the Licensing Act is to call a review of the license. So up until 11 o'clock at night, it's beyond this committee's control to actually condition the license for windows and doors, and that might be something that Victoria can just do as a matter of course anyway, but we would be unable to condition that because of that deregulation.
Thank you, understood.
That's to 11. Yeah.
Go next.
Yeah.
Did you want to sort of, would it be easier if they all speak first and then you?
Things on a little, and I'm not trying to stop anybody from speaking. Please don't think that. And these hearings, I think, are always better if they're a discussion rather than a.
Absolutely.
So your officer is absolutely right in relation to live music. So she saved me a job for outlining that. In relation to the extension of live and recorded music, there is a concern about live and recorded music on the ground floor. We are happy to restrict the application, extend live and recorded music just to the basement area. So hopefully me jumping in and saying that now will help.
No, that's very helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, my concerns are mainly, as I've said before, is the management of the noise, and I take on board what Ewan said about if people are there at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're either committing a sort of public disorder offence, and it's not necessarily the responsibility of the hotel to ensure that the area is cleared. It would be nice to have a regular get together, and I know that doesn't necessarily form part of this license, but to be able to have a formalised plan of the areas, and it's not necessarily the related entirely to disposal. There are, as Gordon says, we have back gardens, and we bought houses that backed onto a hotel, and we've had a fabulous time there for most of my 20 years. It's great. The one thing that I would welcome is the control of language and things as people go late into the evenings and stay into the gardens, and you could be up on your terrace with, friends, relatives, and all you can hear is the most profane language from people in the gardens, which is echoed to us. So we're encouraged. I'm encouraged an awful lot by what I've heard. So that's taken an awful lot of things out of my list. But what I'd like to see with the introduction of the night manager is also the continual support from Green King, from Michael, towards Victoria achieving her aims, that we can all work together and cohabit together. And that would be my one takeaway from this, that if the commitment is there from Green King to support Victoria and give her the extra staff, that we may achieve a balance.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at hiring 50 new staff. So we will suppose you have a higher labour budget as well. But just to reference your get together, I'm sure Victoria has done, she's mentioned it before, she's happy to have a monthly meeting with you guys, understand any stresses or anything that's gone on recently, and put some more actions in place for you on the back of that from open communication. And she's happy to grab a coffee, insight, what's happened this week, how's things been, actually on a Saturday, Victoria, when you're not here, this is going on. We will then deal with it and we'll offer that support.
I think it's really, thank you.
Okay.
I think those sort of, I have a sense, and you may do too, in just listening to what has been said, is that there are informal discussions that take place between the premises and the residents. And those will continue regardless of the decision that you make today. But if you want to form, I've written a list of conditions that I think you might want to consider. And what I'm afraid it's just going to add to the time that I've been trying to pull things together at the end. But one of the things is to provide a number to local residents, a night manager, so that you have, rather than going to an answer, you already have Victoria's number, and also to attend meetings at the request of the Residents Association. So those are the conditions that I have in my head. And just very briefly, and I apologise for this, is that Green King are the license holders. So the conditions that you attach to the license, it's on Green King. It's also on the manager, I grant you, or the DPS, but they're the primary body who are responsible for maintaining and ensuring that the conditions are delivered.
That's right.
I mean, I would say I'm encouraged by what I've heard, for sure. And if everything we spoke about today ends up in place, I think that's going to go a long way to mitigating the impact of the extended hours. I completely agree, Victoria does a great job. And for me, the current hours and the way it's operating at the moment, I do get noise. It's a shame I didn't know you were visiting, because I could have just taken you through my back garden into my house. And you can sit in my front room and you can hear people talking in the pub, yeah, which I expected that. I've only been there 5 years. I'm relatively new to the Mews. I expected that. But what I would say is the acoustics of the area, because the building is very tall and the houses next to it, it is like an amphitheatre. That sort of bounces the sound round and out. So people talking are quite loud. You can hear it. You can actually hear conversations. It's definitely on my patio, and the swearing I would back up on, but also in my house. During the day, funny enough, the more people that are there, the less disruptive it is, because it's almost like a hum and a noise, and it's nice actually. You get like the noise of the pub. As it gets later on into the evening, and you get fewer people out there, and generally they've been there longer and they've had a few drinks, and that's when it gets louder. And definitely you can sit in my front room, you can be watching the television, and you can hear people swearing in the pub. Now, I completely agree, Victoria's got a handle on that. And if we have this, and my concern is up until 11 o'clock, I can kind of put up with that because I've moved next door to a pub. With the extended license, if I have people using, for instance, the front bedroom of my, or the back bedroom of my house, I don't really want my daughter who stays over hearing people out in the back garden being kept awake by people out on that back patio. So for me, it's key what everyone said here about the control of the external area, probably more even than the control of the extended licenses, the control of the external area, making sure people move on and making sure people aren't out there late drinking and or making, you know, antisocial noise, if you like. But overall, I've got a good relationship with the pub as well. So,
out of interest, because the license is licensed till midnight Fridays and Saturdays. So, do you find, do you notice yourself whether it's open much after 11?
Definitely, you hear people past 11 o'clock, and you hear people up until 12 o'clock, sometimes just after 12. Personally, we can cope with that. We tend to migrate to the other side of the house, so we can cope with that. So as it is at the moment, I would say it's manageable for me, but not if I start to use the external areas of my property. If I go out onto the patio, then you are exposed to more noise from the pub. But more specifically, I think as it gets later, the people who are hanging on, who are there later, have generally had a few drinks. They get louder and the language can go up. That's, to me, that's the problem, I think. But I do again support Victoria, and that I'd say as it's being managed right now, that's what you would expect from a pub. And with the ability to call a manager who's there after hours, because that's been the problem, that will go a long way, I think.
It's getting something resolved if you have a problem late at night. We haven't had that before. It's somebody to speak to and say, what's going on? It's, you know, it's 11:45 and everybody's still in the garden. Well, you know, what happened to your license application?
Mr. Malpass.
I just want to support what my neighbours have said. I don't really have anything else to add to that.
Thank you. Have you any questions for the residents? Mr. Presumably there's no questions, you're just going to sum up. Yeah.
It's not my habit to ask questions of residents.
No, that's fair enough. I didn't
that's fine.
Do you think we were forgetting you?
Yeah, no, that's eminently forgettable. But there are a couple of comments I want to make about some of the things that have been said. It's nothing controversial.
Yeah, sure.
I'll pick all of that up at the end if you're happy with that.
Well, I think we're ready for you to sum up.
Just there's a couple of things. It's been really helpful listening to what has been said. I have never. I've been in this job for a while, and you can probably tell by the colour of my hair. But I've never sat in a licensing application where residents who have opposed an application have been so positive, so courteous and kind. about a manager of a premise where they are opposing an application. And I had a little word to Victoria and I said, now's the time to be asking for a pay rise.
You've clearly never been to Sevenoaks District before, because this is the kind of people we are.
Well, yeah, very good answer. Touche. I mean, that's put me right back in my box, hasn't it? I'm not sure I've appeared before you as a committee. It's a great pleasure to be down here. But what it does, the joking aside, is that what it does show is that actually the management of a licensed premise is key. It's not just all licensed premises are different. And I think there's a comment that's made in the representation say that this application will inevitably bring noise disturbance, crime, disorder. That's simply not the case. Because if you've got a firm hand on the tiller, as clearly Victoria does, the problems can be resolved. And a lot of it is about communication. As with most things in life, it's about relationships, and the stronger the relationship is, I think people sometimes might be a little bit more forgiving, but also if they feel that they can come and say to you, I'm not happy with the way this is happening, can you do X or Y? And also having that channel. Just a couple of just brief comments on some of the things that have been said. The car park is a public car park, and so we cannot be held responsible for everything that goes on in the public car park. Or it may be, sorry, it may be used by members of the public, whether they should be there or not. That is not something that is within our control. Insofar as the complaints are concerned, the point I think I tried to make is that since Victoria's taken over, there have been no complaints about the way. There's been discussions about saying, can you sort this out, can you sort that out? But in terms of complaints in the last 20 months, I think those have completely fallen off the radar. And that's evident from your report. I'm repeating myself again, but there are no complaints within the report about these premises. The Act is permissive, as I said, and licensing is about proportionality. And what steps do you need to take to ensure that the licensing objectives are promoted? So that's advanced or working towards. So working towards the prevention of public nuisance, working towards the prevention of crime and disorder. And the expectation is not that every single issue is eradicated, because if that was the case, it goes back to the point that I made with Councillor Haslam, is that you'd be hard pushed to grant any application, and ultimately every application would come before you for review. So your starting point is you grant, if you don't feel you can grant on the way that the application is presented, are there conditions that you can add to the license to ensure that the licensing objectives are promoted? So the first thing that we have done in the course of today, and it's been very helpful, and it's the way that these applications evolve when they come before committees, is that we have withdrawn the application insofar as live and recorded music is concerned post 11 o'clock for the ground floor. And so that will be limited only to the basement area. Insofar as the use of the outside area is concerned, you've heard at the moment that it is sometimes used until 11:30 at night or whatever. There are no conditions at the moment that limit the use of the outside area. And so this is your, although the use of the outside area falls out with this application, we are making an offer to you as a committee to say that the external area, say for access and egress of customers or residents, the external areas will be cleared of customers by 11 p.m. And if that is not happening at the moment, that's because there is no condition, but we do try and clear it away as quickly as we possibly can. So that's a condition. I think, I can't remember which of the residents it was that asked about the dispersal plan, but we are, I think it might have been Neil or Gordon asked for a dispersal plan. And we are happy to offer a condition that the premises license holder will implement a dispersal plan, dispersal policy, and that the dispersal policy will be reviewed at least every 12 months. And that would be in the normal course of events. It's made available to officers of the authority and the responsible authorities. And likewise, a similar condition in relation to the noise management plan And a noise management plan was, of course, provided to your environmental health officer, and they saw fit not to make a representation of the application. I think I've already made a commitment that a duty manager's phone number would be provided to the residents, and we can disperse that via the association. And then at the request of the Residents Association to attend meetings. But I think hopefully you'll have seen the way that the relationship has built over the last 20 months since Victoria's been there, the need to wait for meetings. We're happy to do it, but the better way of dealing with it is to attend the meetings when they happen. I'm not going to read what I have said in my conclusions and my submissions, but I would encourage you to read those, and that's from paragraphs 23 to 29. And it is instructive that there are no representations to the application from the responsible authorities. And I'm going to just read, having said I'm not going to read all of it, I'm just going to read this last paragraph. It says, whilst the applicant is sensitive to the concerns of local residents, they invite the committee to conclude that absent any concerns or representations from the responsible authorities, a fair and proportionate and balanced means of protecting those concerns and promoting the licensing objectives has been proposed, and proposed with the amendments that I've taken you through just now, and that the application should be granted as applied for, but with the changes that I've suggested. And I'm in danger of repeating what I've said before, but it's all in the papers. I found this to be a very helpful discussion. I think it's a model for the way that licensing applications should be run. The outcome of this application is that, given what we have said to you and the conditions that have been proposed, is that provides a fair and proportionate way to promote the licensing objectives. And if there are any concerns, the point that Council has them made and the point that the residents made is that ultimately there is the ability to review the license. And I'm hopeful, because of the way that this has developed, that as much as I enjoy being in Sevenoaks, I won't be coming back to Sevenoaks on an application for review.
I was just wondering, I have one technical question. It's nothing to do with this. It's a technical question almost to yourselves or to the licensing officer. Do we have, am I on it? Do we have is there a method we can, if we are unhappy with something on a license, is there a method of appealing directly to yourself? As a licensing officer, say we believe this license isn't being operated as approved? Or do we have to go via a different channel? I mean,
if you feel that any of the 4 licensing objectives are being undermined, initially you could come to me or the responsible authority, like the police. If it's crime and disorder, you go to the police, environmental health with noise, and we can try to work it out with the premises without the necessity of a review.
I just wasn't sure whether there was a kind of direct appeal to the licensing authority if we felt something was in.
You can call a review of the license, which is an application. And we follow a process once the application is received and you supply any evidence. And then we have a 28-day public consultation period followed by a hearing very much like this, where anybody that's made representation is invited to come along, and obviously the license holder.
I mean, I hope we never get to that. It was just a point of interest I had.
No, there is definitely, yes. The review process is in place, yes.
Sorry, very quickly, just for you, and I don't want to bounce back on this, but the car park is managed and run by Green King. It's not a public car park. It's actually Green King employ Britannia Parking to manage that car park. So they are in control of that car park space. It's not an external landlord. The landlord is Market Square Properties, and Green King have a lease, long lease or whatever on that car park. So that is okay.
I accept that, and I apologize. I'm not trying to mislead anybody, and I hope I've been so pretty frank with you as a committee. That is noted. The area manager is here, and yeah.
And so, just to the noise management plan, was that offered as a condition? Yeah. Right. think that's it. So what we will do, we will retire over there and we will discuss this, and then we'll come back to you as soon as we can. Thank you, everyone, for coming along today, and for it's been a really positive and constructive discussion, I think, and we've listened very carefully to what's been said. So, having regard to the representations made by the applicant and interested parties, regard to the licensing objectives, statutory guidance, and the council's statement of licensing policy, we are minded to grant the application, but subject to the imposition of additional conditions. We support the proposed investment in the hospitality industry in the local nighttime economy. We accept that the primary concern of residents relates to additional noise nuisance from extended hours, and we take this really very seriously. We're imposing the applicant's proposed condition requiring that the external licensed customer area be cleared of people, customers, beyond 11 p.m, except for access or egress. We further appreciate the removal of the ground floor from the extension of hours for live and recorded music, so they will not apply on the ground floor. Taking into account the non-standard timings, we are imposing a condition which limits the non-standard timings and seasonal variations other than New Year's Eve, although obviously with alcohol it applies all through the night anyway, so that they do not extend before 1 a.m. the following day. So we thought that that wording, I think, covers it. We find it significant that the responsible authorities did not raise any objections, including environmental health. But we do welcome the applicant's proposed condition requiring a noise management plan and a dispersal policy to be reviewed annually. And these will be added as conditions to the license. We note that the noise management plan has already been provided to the council, and would welcome the dispersal policy also being shared with us. We are reassured by the applicant's willingness to provide direct contact information for the duty manager to neighbouring residents in Yew Tree Mews, and are imposing a condition requiring this. We note that the applicant offered to attend local meetings at the request of residents as a condition. However, we thought this was maybe slightly vague and maybe not so enforceable. So what we've decided is that we're not going to adopt that as a condition in our decision, but we do, of course, expect the parties will continue to engage with each other to resolve any issues which may arise. So there's a firm expectation that those meetings will take place. So this is the decision. So a full decision notice, including the reasons for the decision, will be issued within 5 working days to all interested parties. And of course, as was alluded to earlier on, you can review a license. It's you know, there's no payment of fee or anything like that. You would draw your attention to the licensing office first, try to deal with anything. Obviously, your first port of call will be the pub, then it'll be the licensing office. Last resort is the review. I'm sure, trust, it won't reach that, but that is the ultimate power that you have, which is to call for that if it doesn't go as the applicants have said, and if they don't abide by the conditions, so that the conditions are a reassurance for you. And that's it.
Can I just say that this has been, and I don't just say this because of the decision, but a thoroughly enjoyable experience. And that's a credit to you, and it's also a credit to the residents, because it's, in my mind, how licensing committee meetings should go. And it's a discussion to try and get to the root cause, try and find a solution, and be civil and polite to everybody, which I hopefully we have all been. We had a really interesting chat whilst you were out making your decision about the history of the pub and the hotel. And what I didn't know is that it was the address that Ruth Ellis used when she was on trial at the Old Bailey. And I think it's where Philby used to go and have his sort of clandestine meetings back. I don't know how much truth there is in those, but if they weren't true before, they are now. And so they need to become part of local folklore.
We have come a long way since then, as you can tell by today.
Yes. I mean, no one is going to be hanged as a consequence of this hearing. But thank you very, very genuinely. Thank you very much to the residents, to you as a committee, to your officers, to your licensing officer. It's been very, very helpful.
And our thanks to all of